Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society, our parents donate a ton of money to the Big Brain Academy, but we still don't get in. It's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with you. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers, and I am joined, as I am always joined, by my co-host, Mark Mitchell. We've got a good show for you today. We're going to be talking about the news from the week, including rumors of Game Boy and Game Boy Color games coming to Switch Online. And then on Thursday, we are going to be predicting its launch lineup, Mark, I think with some degree of accuracy. But in the meantime, how you doing?
I'm doing great. This is the first time that I've opened my laptop in a few days because we are coming to the end of a 3-day work weekend. And man, humans are filthy, filthy creatures. I try. Like, if you had asked me last week, I would have said that my laptop was immaculate. I'm opening it now. I'm seeing it with new eyes. It's gross. It's disgusting.
There's scum and gunk everywhere.
Gattaca could not work in real life because people are too disgusting.
Wait,
we're spitting all over the place.
Wait, is that how Gattaca works? Is that you can't spit anywhere?
Well, I mean, Gattaca, right? Like your DNA is checked everywhere, and so in parts of it, like Ethan Hawke has to take somebody else's skin follicles that have like fallen off, and put them in his keyboard, so that way when someone comes by and tests it, But you realize it would fall apart immediately because people are spitting in each other's face all the time.
Right.
You just can't.
That's why everyone has COVID. No, you're right though. I guess I had forgotten that there was that much tricking the system with DNA.
He has to do everything. Because it's Jude Law, right? Jude Law's just living like a hermit and giving his skin shavings to people. Not a bad life if you can
if you can swing it.
If you can get paid for it.
Speaking of things that aren't bad if you can pay for it, the Sonic Forces borrowing program, which is good even though you don't have to pay for it. I have to pay for it, but it's fine. Would you like to borrow my copy of Sonic Forces? You can certainly try. All you gotta do is email us at nintendocartridgesociety@gmail.com and give us a mailing address where we can send my copy of this Switch game. You play it for as long as you want. You send it back. It doesn't cost you anything. I pay for postage. Both ways. There may be a copy of Untitled Goose Game in there instead of a copy of Sonic Forces. There's no accounting for it. It's just something that happens. You can't predict a goose's behavior. You can't predict the behavior of Untitled Goose Game.
Another thing you can do is you can leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. We really appreciate it. It helps people find the show. And if you do leave us a review and it's not on the US Apple Podcast Store, let us know. Send us an email, hit us up on Twitter. We would love to give you a shout out, just like Sergeant Salmon, who left us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts with a comment. I like this twist to the 5-star review. He says, you said that the SNES controller, actually, I should say, they say, I don't know if Sergeant Salmon could be a woman.
Right. Well, anyone can raise through the ranks of Sergeant. Yes.
Exactly. So they say...
Gender non-specific.
You said that the SNES controller was the best of all time, but I think that spot is held by the GameCube controller. It fits in your hands so well, and the buttons are arranged perfectly. Let me know what you guys think. Patrick.
Yeah.
Gut reaction. Comparing the SNES controller, or really, let's just talk on the GameCube controller in general.
Right. Well, the GameCube controller is a very good controller. It's also a very specific controller. I believe that the point that we were driving at with the Super Nintendo controller was that it is sort of the controller around which all other controllers have been based, and that is the GameCube controller is almost like a deviation from that, and then kind of conforms back in the next generation. And that everyone else, no one followed them on that detour,
including themselves.
Including themselves, yeah.
Yeah,
because by the Wavebird, it kind of goes back to being more Super NES controller like.
I guess a little bit. I feel like for me the downside of the GameCube controller is, like you said, it's so specific. I think for the Nintendo GameCube, the GameCube controller is amazing, right?
Yes.
It feels really good. The analog shoulder buttons like feel really good. All of it is a great controller, but
Yes.
like I don't really know how you control any game that isn't specifically made for the GameCube controller with
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And so I don't know that it stands the test of time in the same way that like an SNES controller does, where I feel like the SNES controller does not require explanation. If you are like familiar with game inputs in general, the SNES controller makes sense in a way that the GameCube controller like doesn't.
Yeah, it's a weird one to revisit. I like the idea of designating a prime button, like the button that you push all the
Yeah.
time.
Mhm.
I think that's awesome. And then also on top of that, having like a secondary button, like the big green A button, the slightly smaller red B button, and then like X and Y being like little beans on top. I think is a really, I think that's incredible, and it's possible that that is the superior design. It's just not where we landed as a gaming culture.
Yeah. That's right. That's true. That is a really cool feature, and if they wanted to bring that back, I'd be all for it.
Oh yeah, I love a big main button.
Mhm.
Like a and it's green. Come on, it's perfect. So yes, well observed, Sergeant Salmon. But I still think the SNES controller is more important.
A good distinction.
October is Game and Watch month. We are committing most of our episodes during that week, during that month, the week of October, to the Game and Watch. Mark and I are going to be exploring all things related to Nintendo's first portable hardware. Where ideas are taking form at the moment, but we would still love your input. If there are subjects within Game and Watch that you would like us to talk about, or if you would just like to relay your experiences with it, you can email us at Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com. And thank you to everyone who has reached out to us so far. It is helpful and it is encouraging also. So thank you everyone, and keep it up. Mark, we've got 2 emails from Alex that are short that I want to address quickly. First, he writes, and this is on August 28th. At Mark Mitchell, what's your problem with Bowser Jr.?
Oh, that's right. Alex, I will put it simply that I just think he's annoying. I think he's an annoying character. He does not bring me joy. And the baby Mario varieties, like, they also fall into this category.
They ranked really low on our doctor list.
Yes, where it's like, I am not against them existing. If they bring other people joy, then that's fine. But they do not bring me joy. I do not enjoy looking at them. I do not enjoy seeing them. I do not enjoy hearing them. I do not enjoy thinking about them.
Now, Mark, what would you say to someone pointing out that Bowser Jr. is not Baby Bowser?
I would say well observed.
No, look, I think, and this is, look, I also hate Bowser Jr. Just like you. There are certain characters in the Nintendo canon that we have a deep loathing for, and there's nothing that's going to change that. All of you King K. Rool freaks, I'm never going to understand you. He's a bad character. I don't like him.
I think given the option,
oh boy,
I would probably obliterate Bowser Jr. from existence. But given that that is not within my power,
right?
I am content to just
talk smack about him. Yeah,
just exactly.
A second email from Alex says, I was listening to the Ranking the Zeldas episode, and I think that Link to the Past and Majora's Mask should be higher. Well, I mean, it's frankly, I don't remember where we put them on that list.
I don't either. But I'll take your word for it, Alex.
They probably should be higher. But I mean, look, there's Zelda games like
it again, not remembering where we ended up ranking them.
Right.
I think that Majora's Mask, this is my memory.
Yeah.
I wanted to rank, I like it more than you like it. I wanted to rank it higher. We settled kind of like not that high, kind of like between those two polls. And so I think that makes sense. Link to the Past, you and I constantly talk about on this podcast and off of this podcast.
Is a perfect game.
In real life is a perfect game. And so wherever we ranked it, if it wasn't number 1 or number 2, we need to like talk to ourselves.
Well, I feel like number 1 and number 2 were almost certainly and this is us now guessing what our previous podcast sounded like, but I'm guessing that number 1 was Breath of the Wild, and number 2 was Ocarina of Time. Like,
yeah, that I don't remember.
I mean, I don't either. And I mean, thankfully, there's no way to know. All right, Mark, are you ready to get into what we've been playing this week?
Yep.
Alex, thank you for writing in. We appreciate it. Let's do it. Let's get into what we've been playing.
I did it. I am back to playing The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword.
Yeah, you are.
Got to tell you, I was a little worried for a second. You know, I was almost nervous getting back into it, and it did, because it's been a couple of weeks, and it did take me a little bit of time to just recall how to control Link.
Yes.
Where you're like, oh, I'm falling from the sky. How do I get like the sailcloth to show up?
I mean, luckily the button prompt appears on screen.
Yeah.
Right,
But at the very, like, the last second.
Yeah, sure.
So yeah, it did take me a little bit to get back into the groove of it, but I did get back into the groove. I haven't made a ton of forward progress, so I'm in the like Elden Volcano dungeon, the Earth dungeon right now. I've made my way to it, and I generally do not like these levels, like in Zelda games.
Like the fire
like in
dungeons?
Breath of the Wild, like when you're in the Goron Kingdom and stuff, like not my favorite.
Sure.
But for whatever reason, and maybe it's like you observed earlier, Patrick, how Skyward Sword has like completely different races, you know, like completely new designs for characters, that I really liked the approach to the Earth dungeon.
Yeah.
Except for the part where you have to get like the 5 pieces of the key, because I think those kind of quests are always kind of boring.
Yeah, well, and like you never stop doing dowsing quests before before each dungeon.
Yeah.
Which, like, you know, just is what it is. It's I believe I am to the point in the game now where it is no longer dowsing for like individual pieces of a thing. It's just douse for like the one thing.
Oh.
Which is much better, because then it's just like, okay, where am I going here? And then you know. But so you're in the dungeon itself. Have you been rolling around on top of the boulder?
No,
in the
so
lava
I haven't
yet?
got. So I just got into the dungeon, and I was like, okay, gotta call it quits. But I could have, I think, gotten further, but I got sidetracked by the gratitude crystals.
Mm-hmm.
Which at first I was like, this is dumb, I don't want to do it. But now I'm like obsessed. I want those little glowy orange things.
Yeah.
And because the
rewards
are
pretty good.
So worth it.
Yeah.
Like bigger wallet.
Gotta get that big wallet.
More whatever you call it, like your adventure pouch, you know, that you can like carry, like, so. And also I like the big monster thing.
The big monster thing is great. The fact that the way that the game sets us up is there is a girl who has gone missing, and like her parents are like, oh my god, where could she be? And until you address this quest, it's really all anyone talks about, right? And she is hanging out with a scary monster who lives under Skyloft. And like they're putting on like it's not a play that they're doing, but like they're pretending to be she's pretending that he's being scary or something.
Right. Yeah.
So like you hear her screams and you're like, oh no, I have to save this poor little girl from a monster. And it turns out no, they're just pretending, and the monster is sweet, and he wants you to give him gratitude crystals, or just like be exposed to them or something.
No, yeah, you are gathering gratitude crystals because he wants to become human? Is that what it is?
I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's something like that.
I think he just likes gratitude. And there's, in the world of The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword, gratitude becomes a crystal thing that you can hold in your hand and show to people. Because you don't actually like spend them when he gives you rewards. You just keep like amassing them.
Right. Oh, no. So it is.
Okay.
I looked it up.
Great.
So
what's the monster's
name? The monster's name is Batreaux.
Okay.
Batreaux.
I love it.
And
sounds like he belongs in Hytopia, right?
Yes, totally. And so gratitude crystals are left behind by people who have been helped. And Batreaux seeks these crystals to return to his human form, and he's willing to give you rare items in exchange for them. Thank you, the IGN walkthrough for Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. I basically just read that verbatim.
Okay, so you got obsessed with collecting.
Yeah, got obsessed
crystals,
with gratitude crystals, and was like, how do I get more gratitude crystals? So I started like Googling, and it's like, well, they're some of them are only available at night, so it's like gotta sleep, gotta find like a
Yep.
bed.
Yep.
So
By the way, Link can go to sleep in anyone's bed, even when
even
you're
when
in
somebody
the
is like
house,
share,
yes.
yeah, if they're in the house. If there's one villager's house or one member resident of Skyloft's house where it's like a queen size bed
Yeah.
and there is a child asleep on one end and Link can just get in
Yeah.
and just sleep until it's night. Anyways, am obsessed with gratitude crystals. So I've been collecting them as much as I can. There's little side quests on Skyloft. Like there's a sick bird, and so you like go out to the island, you find it, and then go back and you get more gratitude crystals. I love it. I'm just really enjoying this game. I I forget what the race is called in the Elden Volcano, but they're like the
Yeah,
little
the
mole
mole people,
thing.
yeah.
I love them. You know what they remind me of is like because they have this sort of like gangster isn't right. It reminds me of like, oh sorry,
Like Tank Girl, almost.
yes,
Yes.
yes, and it's like their design. I'm like this all just reminds me of like Spike from Newsies from Brooklyn. I really like it. I am just enjoying the game a lot.
I think we just typified our our references, Newsies and Tank Girl. Yeah, no, it's have you done the side quest where you're supposed to deliver a love letter?
No, not yet.
Okay, so you have a choice between either delivering the love letter or giving it to the hand inside the toilet who needs paper. And I just want to know what choice you made.
Oh man, I can't wait to get. Is this a side quest that comes from the Lumpy Pumpkin?
No, I don't think so.
Oh,
I
okay,
think
okay.
it's a side quest that comes from the school.
Oh no, I have not done that. Have you? So in the Lumpy Pumpkin,
Yeah.
Did you like crash the?
Oh, you bet I crashed
Oh,
that
okay,
chandelier.
okay.
I mean, that was something I did super early. Like first chance to like fly around the sky, I landed at the Lumpy Pumpkin, which is like a tavern or something in the sky. And there's a big chandelier, and it's got a couple like rupees and a heart piece on it. And signs up everywhere being like, please do not jostle the chandelier. And so you better believe that I knocked that thing down like as soon as I could. And then the owner makes you deliver pumpkin soup to people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've also found that. Oh yeah, and it took me a while to remember how to roll because
Yeah.
I was like, okay,
You gotta shake the left one.
yes, yeah. So I was like, oh, I've got to roll into this pillar to knock down the chandelier. For the life of me, couldn't figure out how to roll. And so, but that being said, once I got back into the groove of the motion controls, I'm actually enjoying it more now, the motion controls, than I was previously. Although I still find myself when it comes to combat going a little just like waggle crazy and not really lining it up that well. Because when you're fighting things like the bokoblins and stuff, it doesn't really make any difference seemingly. Like it kind of does. But...
Yeah, I mean, when I fight a bokoblin, I just wait for them to swing, and then I hit them with the shield, and that like staggers them, and then you can just like unload on them, and it doesn't matter anymore.
One of these days, I'll figure out the difference between a bokoblin and like a moblin. Not which ones I've been fighting.
I mean, it's so hard. There's I was just talking about Twilight Princess, and they're called like boblins or something. Like it's just like another like slightly different thing. It's the goblins in the game, right? What was I saying? Oh yeah, I just stunning them and then like hacking away at them has been super useful for me. But I fought a couple of the like Stalfos now, which are the skeleton guys that have two swords. And so they only give you like one path like through to like either swipe like vertically or at an angle. And then I fought another one that grew two more arms that had axes in them. So you really just have like one like point of entry. That was a very difficult fight. I enjoyed it a lot.
Oh, that's cool though. I have not encountered any of those yet.
Yeah, you will, and it'll be great when you do. One of the things that I've enjoyed about this game, and I've not progressed too much further from where we talked last time. I am in the revisiting the Faron Woods section of the game, which reveals the woods to be so much bigger and have like so much more cool stuff going on in there, including more like races of people. But I've got a whip now. I've got the Zora scale to let me, or it's a dragon scale, I think, that lets me swim underwater and like do a little spin move. And like all these kinds of things that all have different motion control inputs. And I am amazed at how just kind of like fluid it feels to switch between them and just like kind of use Link's arsenal. It never feels like overly finicky or confusing or whatever. It just feels like natural and fast and fun.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm hoping to get to that point.
Mark, you will. I believe you will. I'm so glad to know that you're like back into it.
Yeah.
'Cause, like, who knows when you take a break for a couple weeks?
No, for sure. Especially I feel like from a game like that where it feels like an investment just because I'm so early in it
Yeah.
that it's easy to fall out of it. But I every time I've played this game, I have really enjoyed it. And so we've talked about this before, but I do think that slow and steady is a great way to experience this game.
Yeah.
Because I think some of the things that are irritating, like, um the combat sometimes and the
Or
motion
like
controls and stuff
dowsing.
like that. Yeah, that if you put enough time between it, it's just fun to check back in instead of feeling like you're trying to get over all of those annoying
Yeah.
rough parts of it.
Yeah, it's nice to keep that sort of like novelty of it up, that like it feels new, and when you engage with it every couple days instead of all the time.
It's also fun to go around the Sky World.
Mm-hmm.
And
Skyloft.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, is Skyloft just the island?
Great point, Mark.
Or
you
is
got, you
Skyloft
got
like
me.
the
You
entire
got me.
like sky area? But yeah, like flying around on your bird is fun.
Yeah.
I wish sometimes that it didn't take quite so long to get from place to place.
Yeah.
But and it's fun, especially when I realize like, oh, like I can land at I should be aiming to land at different areas because, on the top of this thing there's a chest and like all that kind
Right.
of stuff.
Yeah, and it's cool to like hit the blocks on the ground to make treasure chests.
Oh yeah, the goddess
Yeah.
blocks or stones or whatever. I looked it up. The creatures in the Elden volcano are magmas.
Magmas.
Yeah, I
Very
like them
good.
a lot.
Hey, speaking of magma, no, never mind. I was gonna ask a question that ends up being a spoiler for Shang-Chi. Never mind. All right, Mark. That's what we've been playing this week. Let's get into the new releases and what we might be playing next week.
Today, Tuesday, September 7th, Sonic Colors Ultimate is released on Switch and other platforms if you so choose, and maybe you should.
Well, it's unclear. So the game was available for people that purchased the digital deluxe version of it. It was available on Friday, I believe. And it seems like the Switch version is experiencing some pretty intense glitches and like graphical distortions with kind of like strobe effects. However, it is also unclear whether that is happening on actual Switches or people using emulated Switch hardware to play the game. Which, first of all, I don't really understand. How the game came out on Friday. How do people have emulated? Is it emulated software? Is it emulate? I don't understand what's happening.
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
But Sonic Team has promised a patch for the Switch version to clean it up. But their social media manager took to Twitter on Monday to say the following, quote, "Appreciate all your feedback on Sonic Colors Ultimate, and the teams are listening and assessing for an upcoming patch. Thank you all for your patience as we dig into this. Quick aside, we've seen some graphical issues that are caused by an emulator, which is unfortunately outside of our control. Trying to figure out what bugs are legitimate can really slow down the QA process. If you're having issues, please do flag them here."
So this is what I think.
Yeah.
Unfounded speculation.
On
on
your
part.
Okay,
yeah, on my part is that people play Switch games like Breath of the Wild and stuff on their PCs through an emulator, so that way they can get better performance than they can get from the Switch.
Sure.
And so that is what I'm
probably-
guessing.
Probably easier for capture purposes too, if people are putting it up on like Twitch or YouTube or whatever.
Yeah, probably.
We don't really understand the way people play video games now. We know how we do it.
Right.
It's so far outside of what we do.
Yes, but
Yeah.
so that's what I think is happening is people are playing the game on an emulator on their computer for either to capture the gameplay footage easier or just for better like performance, like frame rate and stuff like that. And potentially that the emulation is what's causing some issues. And so they're trying to like separate the two.
Yeah, it begs the question of why emulate the Switch version though? Because there's like a PlayStation version and Xbox like that seem to be performing better without these glitches.
Yeah.
I don't know what's happening.
I
Mark.
don't either. I don't. And yet we committed ourselves to talking about it.
I got to bring it up at least. It's a buyer beware situation. That's what's going on with Sonic Colors. Mark, this one sort of snuck up on us because it had that sort of like early release for people with the digital deluxe edition last week, so we didn't talk about it on last week's show. but we are talking about it now, and removed from the sort of like controversy of it being buggy on emulators or it being buggy at all. How do you feel about Sonic Colors Ultimate? Is it something that you care about at all? Will we be visiting it in some way?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Which I am always looking for another Sonic game to get into, which because I loved Sonic Mania so much, which really
Yeah.
like surprised me. I've loved Sonic Mania. And so I'm always looking for that next Sonic game that I should be playing, but this one does not feel like it. It has not captured my excitement in the same way.
I mean, I'm sort of happy to wait for the new Sonic game that's supposedly coming out next year, seeing if it's any good.
Yeah, I mean, why not?
Yeah. Look, we don't need to add another Sonic game to the borrowing program, right?
Oh, and then on Friday, a game that I am very excited for, WarioWare Get It Together, is released on Switch. It's $50. I was so elated to see another WarioWare game announced at Nintendo's E3 showcase, and the fact that they are introducing like co-op multiplayer,
Oh my
the
God.
fact that you're going to be controlling these characters themselves instead of before you were always just acting as yourself in these games. I don't know, it's just a fun twist on the WarioWare formula. If you have never played a WarioWare game before, I highly recommend you check out the demo. They are just kind of like manic, crazy fun. WarioWare Get It Together this Friday.
Yeah, and while the demo is super fun, and I do recommend everyone check it out, there's always like a depth of gameplay experiences within a WarioWare game that aren't immediately apparent as you are playing like just a barrage of micro games, right? That there are always different ways that it can serve them up to you in manners that are either like faster or crazier or that challenge you in some kind of way. I'm very much looking forward to all those little like twists on the formula and everything that you already said about it. I'm very excited. It's already pre-downloaded on my Switch. It's a day's, -6 purchase for me. So yeah, I'm right there.
And then also on Friday, NBA 2K 2022 is. I had to really think about that one.
2K22. Right.
That just feels so wrong coming out of my mouth, and yet that is the name of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And that is released this Friday as well.
When do you think we start dropping the 2K or like the 2000? Like, because we got to a point where we stopped saying 1998.
Well, I think the 2K is there because
part of the brand.
2K games.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because otherwise it would just be like, you need something else because EA, theoretically, I don't even know if they make them anymore, has NBA Live.
Sure.
Or, so I think you, like, the 2K is the part that, like, lets you know which game
That's
you're
the
buying.
brand.
Yeah.
Sure. But I guess generally speaking, we sort of just are on to calling something whatever 22, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like that indicates
Or
the
we just
year.
call it like, I feel like if they're gonna do a gritty reboot of an
Ooh.
NBA game, they just call it NBA.
The NBA.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
You gotta unFacebook it. All right, that's what's coming out this week. Let's close this segment out. Which leads us to another regular segment on our show. It is time for 433. 1952 American composer John Cage wrote a piece called 433, wherein a performer or group of performers didn't play their instruments for 4 minutes and 33 seconds. For the purposes of this show, our instruments are talking about Nintendo. So, for the duration of one performance of 433, Mark and I will talk about something not at all Nintendo related, thus fulfilling the contract of the piece. Mark, today we are discussing our favorite sports mascots, professional or amateur. This was a suggestion sent to us by
John.
John, thank you, John. Mark, who are your favorite sports mascots?
Quick question, clarification
yes.
before we get into the meat of this.
Yes.
So, is a mascot only the like avatar that is out on the field? You know, like normally in like a foam costume,
right?
You know, like think when you visit Mickey Mouse at Disneyland, like that sort of thing. Or can it just be like part of the logo? And because sometimes I feel like that happens, right?
Right.
Where,
well, yeah, and it's like I feel like you almost have to take it like holistically, right? Because the creature that you see out on the field or at the stadium may not bear too much of a resemblance to the animal that's part of the logo, and sometimes even like within design changes, the animal in the logo looks different. So I think we can either look at it holistically and say like the sum total of these parts of the mascot are good, or this specific version of the mascot is good.
Right. Well, because I think that's fair.
I
think
have
that's
a
fair.
very specific example in my head.
Great.
Bango Buck, the Buck's Buck, right? He is a deer. And during this last year, Bucks did great this last year. They won the championship. And their whole thing was fear the deer, right? And they've got this like logo that's like a mean looking deer just like staring down the barrel of the camera. But there is also an older logo which is like Bango Buck, and like he's got his little hoof up, and he's spinning a basketball on his little hoof, and he's smiling, and he's got those little like anime smile eyes.
Different era.
It's a different era and a different beast, and that's a beast that I prefer because it's so charming. Spinning it on his hoof.
That's so funny. It's like the
fear the deer.
Yeah. Do you know a mascot I admire is Gritty?
Sure.
The official mascot for the Philadelphia Flyers. Gritty's just fun.
Gritty's got personality, man.
Gritty's got personality, and I'm not really sure like what that. Gritty's got attitude.
Yeah. Okay.
Like he is like friendly, but also seems like he could eat a child if pushed.
Yeah, I mean,
too far, you know what I mean?
He feels like a Animal from the Muppets.
Yes,
right.
Yes,
where you're like, you're cool. I wouldn't want to know you in real life.
Here's a mystery.
Yeah.
The Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, is that what they're called now?
I think so. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's right.
They don't have a mascot, right?
I mean, I think it's just Christopher Lloyd from Angels in the Outfield.
That would be. I would love that. I would love if that were true.
Yeah. Mascots are. I have a hard time. There's you just because there's just like someone inside a suit who's like having a tough go.
Are they though? I feel like it's
maybe
kind of
fun.
like
maybe
a great. Fun. It seems like it has the potential to be a very fun job. You're beloved by fans.
Sure.
You're super athletic. So you have that going for you.
What?
Yeah.
Wait, why are you super athletic?
Well, because they're always doing like handstands and backflips and like dunking stuff. Like, it's not just your average person just like showing up,
And I'm saying that's a lot of hard work.
I think it is. It is.
Yeah,
but I think it'd be fun. Again, you're beloved, right?
Except by the fans from the visiting team.
Yeah, that's true. That's fair. That's fair.
There was a specific mascot. Oh, Mark, have you seen this series of blooper videos with the Minnesota hockey team? I think it's the college. It's a Gopher. And it's like a guy who sells cars. And it's a series of bloopers where he's got a like a bear mascot. And the bear mascot just keeps falling down while the Gopher is like skating circles around him. They're out on the ice, and this poor guy is in a bear costume and just constantly eats the ice.
Have you? Oh well, I guess.
I guess we'll never know. Mark, we were accompanied today by pianist Kyle Shaw. All right, Mark, let's get into the news.
Are Game Boy games going to the Nintendo Switch Online service? Asked the rumor mill, and it says yes.
Yeah, not even like a maybe or probably. The rumor mill says yes.
Are committed. So starting with a discussion on a podcast called Nate the Hate, and then corroborated by Nintendo Life and Eurogamer, the rumor indicates that Nintendo is set to add Game Boy and Game Boy Color games to Switch Online library as early as this month, which I guess the timing makes sense because I feel like both the NES and SNES Switch Online were revealed in September.
Revealed and came out in September. The NES Switch Online came out September 19th, 2018, and the SNES Switch Online came out September 5th, 2019.
Okay.
Did I say 2019 for both of them? 18 for the NES. 19 for the Super NES.
So it's been a couple of years since we've had any editions. Game Boy and Game Boy Color. How are we feeling about that?
I mean, it's a little bit of a. There's a lot of like dregs in there, right? Like I feel like the the Game Boy on an even higher level than like the NES just had like shovelware, right? Like the Game Boy was an incredibly popular system and everyone was making games for it. And just like the sheer number of like crappy licensed games that came out on that thing, I can't imagine they're going to be bringing too many of that sort of game to this thing. But it leaves me asking a lot of questions about what this library could be in a way that's compelling.
Yeah, I feel like about the Game Boy and the Game Boy Color to some extent. To my mind, they are almost the same thing.
Yeah.
But I feel the same way about that I did the NES. Whereas I think there is a good bushelful of great titles that I would be really excited to be able to replay. But um, the NES has really like diminishing returns for me as far as like its library because there's a lot of games that are like arcade ports and puzzle games and like that
And
sort of
like
stuff where
not great arcade ports at
right
that.
where it's like really like fairly rudimentary and it's difficult for me to go back and like really want to enjoy them. And that's how I feel about the Game Boy as well. Like I think that there are real awesome games in the library that I am hoping that they bring over. But then there's just a lot of stuff that like I don't care about personally.
It's also one of those things where like, we played a little bit of the Castlevania collection, which has 3 Game Boy games on it, right? Castlevania, Castlevania 2, and Kid Dracula. And all of those games, like the visual limitations of the Game Boy are so severe when compared to any other classic system that we still play today, or classic library that we still play today. And like it, you have to like meet it 90% of the way, right? Like you have to really be like, this is what I'm doing. This is the graphical fidelity that I'm engaged with.
I do wonder if they will like super Game Boy everything. Like give you the
Yeah.
option to toggle between regular Game Boy and like Super Game Boy or even like the Game Boy Color versions of all of the Game Boy games where wait, was that even a feature? No. Right? If you played a Game Boy game in a Game Boy Color, was it in color?
So yes, it would pick like one of the like automatic palettes and just like
Right.
apply it to it.
Okay.
And like in color just means it's still the same like 4 color, because that's all
Right.
the Game Boy was only displaying in 4 colors. So it would still only be that. But yeah, there's like I don't know. We're gonna have a whole big conversation about this service and what we think the launch is gonna look like on Thursday. But since look, the brief for Thursday is talk about the library, not the features. So I really hope they do have all of the Super Game Boy features in this, letting you pick the color palettes, letting you pick borders, because you're gonna need to have some sort of border for this thing. They can't let you like blow it up to the size of your 72-inch screen. And like, I mean, first of all, it's also within the wrong aspect ratio too. So like, there's just so much that like this is going to require that the other 2 services really didn't, including how you deal with like link cable functionality. Because that was a big part of the Game Boy's library, were 2-player games.
Well, but I think that will not be a problem because one thing that I always forget about when we're talking about the Nintendo Switch Online,
Yeah.
these like NES and SNES services, is that every game that they bring, every single game has online functionality where you can connect with
Yes.
another person, you can watch them play, or if it's a 2-player game, you can play together online. So the link cable stuff I think is inherent in, like bringing these games over.
It's still just a little bit different though, because the Game Boy also always had the 2 screens, right? So like the difference with the Game Boy and with the NES and the Super NES is that like you're both viewing the same screen when you're playing it like over the internet, right? You're witnessing the exact same thing happening. Whereas with the Game Boy games, it'll be 2 different screen experiences.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I think so. I guess 2 bullet points to this that we don't necessarily have to dwell on very long. But one is, would Pokemon be included in something like this because Pokemon is they continue to sell those games regularly.
Yeah, and again, we will talk more about this on Thursday, but I don't know why you would bother to include the Game Boy Color library if you were not going to include some Pokemon game.
And maybe it's like Pokemon Pinball and not necessarily
Yeah.
like the mainline games themselves. The second part of this is that like the rumor doesn't address Nintendo's future plans, as in are any other libraries like the Nintendo 64, the Nintendo GameCube, or of course the Game Boy Advance, which I think for me when I saw these rumors, like I was like, this is awesome, just doing the quick scan and not
Right.
realizing the Game Boy Advance is not included, which makes complete sense. I understand why it would be its own thing, whether it comes ever or not. Um, but Game Boy Advance is, I think, the one that we all want, the one that we covet.
Yeah. Well, and at this point, I think also Nintendo 64, even though those games like aged pretty badly, most of them. Yeah, I think there would be more excitement around those two libraries. I still think there's a chance that this is fun and exciting, and we're going to talk about libraries that I think would be really neat if Nintendo executes on it, but we'll just have to see. They make some weird decisions with these libraries.
Yeah, and also I think the combination of Game Boy and Game Boy Color is positive
Yeah.
because that means that
Oh
we
man,
have
if
both
they
libraries
broke
to
it
choose
out,
from.
oh my god.
So yeah, again, just rumors at this point, but the timing makes sense,
hmm
and potentially, you know, we could get a Nintendo Direct in September. It has happened before historically, although Nintendo's holiday is pretty well booked up, so I don't
hmm
know exactly what we would get from something like that.
Well, it's also interesting because it's so much of Nintendo's like online presence right now, even in the lead up to the release of WarioWare, has been Metroid Dread
Yeah,
focused.
that's true.
So like they are in their promotional stance right now for that game, which makes me think that they're not going to be ready to talk about anything new until after October 8th.
Ooh, how fun would it be to get a Metroid Direct?
Oh man,
That'd be so fun.
Mark, don't you dare.
But again, we'll be talking more about this on Thursday when we try to predict the launch lineup for this Game Boy / Game Boy Color Switch Online, assuming that it is an actual thing.
And also presuming that we don't get scooped and the whole thing gets revealed on Wednesday or something.
That's right. That's right. The Big Brain Academy series is coming to Switch. Last week, Nintendo announced Big Brain Academy Brain vs. Brain to be released on December 3rd. It's so I've never played any of the Brain Academy games before.
Yeah, me neither.
There was a DS one
Mhm.
and there was a Wii version, but I always confused this with Brain Training.
Brain Age.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I confuse them so much as like Brain Age is such a big was such a big presence for my experience with the DS that like Big Brain Academy is just like it's the more like gamified version of it, right? That like and like more with more multiplayer focus. I don't know.
I don't know
This
either.
is me asking questions. I don't know.
But so Big Brain Academy Brain vs. Brain releasing December 3rd, same day as Advance Wars for what is it? 1+2 Reboot Camp for
Yeah.
Switch is released. And it's focused on multiplayer with family-friendly challenges. Not online play in the sense that you can play with another person, but it seems like there's like a robust ghost system to allow you to compete against friends and strangers asynchronously. Solo mode is available as well. It's $30. And this was just one of those stealth releases on Twitter where Nintendo just kind of dropped the news, but still leaves me wondering, why can we not get Brain Age?
Yeah, it seems like, look, I want Brain Age. So I feel like that should be enough. It is interesting to see them exploring the price scale here.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that this is a $30 game, WarioWare is a $50 game, and the Advance Wars 1+2 Reboot Camp is $60. It's just it's neat. I would have thought that Nintendo would have just put everything at 60 and held the line there, which seemed like their plan for a while, right? Like I remember there being a little bit of a what when like Link's Awakening was $60, or like Pokemon Let's Go Eevee and Pikachu $60. and you buy 2 of them. Yeah, it's nice to see them sort of being like, no, okay, this one's 30, this one's 50.
Yeah, WarioWare is a little bit of a mystery to me because my
Yeah,
memory is that Smooth Moves on the Wii was full price and that the DS ones have all been full price.
yeah, that's my memory as well. But I mean, maybe they just recognize that it is because they've never sold a WarioWare game at $60
Yeah, that's right. Smooth Moves was $50
because
because
it was the Wii game.
yep,
Yeah.
yep.
And then other than that, like the series has mostly been portable, right? So
Mhm.
I wonder if that's just like the mindset that they're in, that like this is the sort of pricing of a portable game, but obviously not how they're looking at everything.
Nintendo announced last week that it would be skipping the Tokyo Game Show this year, which means they won't have a physical presence. They won't be showing off any games at that time. Tokyo Game Show 2021 starts September 30th. I love, love, love that Nintendo announced that they're going to be skipping TGS. That's a move that we should all be doing next time we are not able to make a wedding or something like that. Not just that we don't RSVP, it is that we issue a press release
Yes.
saying that we're not going to attend.
I mean, I think most people would prefer that you do RSVP, not it coming. Mark, are you just throwing out wedding invitations?
However, Square Enix has confirmed that Project Triangle Strategy will make the appearance at the show. So we have that to look forward to, if nothing else.
Project Triangle Strategy, a game I keep forgetting about, but when it comes up in the news, I'm very excited. I'm a little worried it's going to be Octopath Traveler E, in that I will be excited to play the first like 7 or 8 hours and then fall off of it. But also, that's fine.
Yeah, because I definitely didn't finish Octopath Traveler, but the time that I did spend with it, I enjoyed, and I hopefully Project Triangle Strategy will be the same way. Maybe here they will officially announce the Project Triangle Strategy. It's going to be known by its new name, just Triangle Strategy. We got to look at gameplay for Marvel's Midnight Suns, the XCOM-like strategy game we talked about last week, featuring dark magic Marvel characters like Blade, Ghost Rider, and Magic. Some of the stuff that we learned about the game, there's a base referred to as the Abbey, where your character can forge relationships with the other heroes in the game.
So that's a very Fire Emblem Three Houses sort
Yeah,
of.
it's an Abbey even.
Yeah, so it's. I mean, they may as well call it the Garrick Mach Monastery. Yeah, no, I love. I know you're not going to be romancing Wolverine, but like, why has no one released a game where I can romance Wolverine?
We'll hold out for hope that Midnight Sun sequel brings us the character romances we truly desire.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps the biggest surprise is that combat is at least partially card based, meaning you won't always have the same abilities at your disposal, which is honestly never a like gameplay battle style that I have ever enjoyed. But I'm keeping an
Yeah,
open mind.
yeah. That's where I am too. I wanted it to be, and look again. I've never actually played an XCOM game. I've only played XCOM-like games, but I've enjoyed them, and they have not had card mechanics. I I don't know. How do you feel about video card games in general?
I don't have the attention span for them.
Yeah, I don't either. Like I had a buddy try to get me into Hearthstone for a while, and like it was fun while I was playing it with him, but then as soon as I put it down, I'm like, I don't have the headspace for it anymore.
Yeah, I have a difficult time like learning digitally. Like I need like an analog like for cards, right? Like
Yeah,
I need an analog thing that I can like hold and touch and like understand. And so like I am just not able to interact with things that way. I just don't retain information the same way when I'm playing the game.
yeah. Well, hopefully the like XCOM like elements here. This is a strategy game heavy sort of segment of the news here. Hopefully that carries it and the Marvelness, so that the limitations of the card based combat aren't so intangible that you can't enjoy it.
The game launches on everything, including Switch, in spring 2022. And finally, Animal Crossing Amiibo cards, the series 1 through 4, are getting a restock, but only at Target stores. And so far, no evidence that they'll be available to purchase online. Brave of Target, I would say. I feel bad for
Oh, Target.
the crew members who are working stores. So, the Animal Crossing Amiibo cards, can I tell you my memory of what they are?
Yeah.
And we'll puzzle this out together.
Yes, let's do it.
Is that I guess exactly what it sounds like. Instead of releasing full amiibo, they released like limited quantities these amiibo cards of different villagers, and if you scan them, you get those villagers will come to your island, and
So
people
that
went
yeah,
crazy for them. Is that
that's
right? Is that true?
kind of.
Okay.
So that is a lot of their functionality in Animal Crossing New Horizons. That in addition to villager cards, there are just like other characters. So like KK Slider has a card, and Dr. Shrunk, and like all these other characters that have other utilities in the Animal Crossing games. So those are not characters that you can call to your island. But the amiibo cards, if you have one for Cookie, for example, you can invite her to the island, to the campsite, and then, interact with her until she agrees to move to the island and live with you forever. So, like, if you are one of those people that's really into, like, having a designer island with all of the exact neighbors that you want, you don't need the Animal Crossing amiibo cards, but it will speed up your progress considerably to do so. And that's part of why they've been sold out and been a hot commodity for some time. They're also used in Animal Crossing New Leaf, Animal Crossing the Happy Home Designer, and the Amiibo Festival games. So they do have a lot of utility, not just in New Horizons, but obviously New Horizons is huge.
Is the Amiibo Festival game, is that like the Mario Party-esque?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. For the Wii U, right?
Yeah. Do you want to come over and play it? It's awful.
We should at some time, for sure. We should. Sidebar episode idea. We do like all those like Mario Party-esque party games. We try to play like Wii Party. We play this thing and Amiibo Festival.
Yeah.
Packs of the Animal Crossing Amiibo cards are $5.99 and will be available early September. So maybe now.
This is a surefire recipe for like a mad dash for people punching each other out at the checkout line at Target. But, what are you going to do?
Yeah,
So
and I
it's the
guess if
world we
they
live
don't
in.
announce when it's going to happen, you just have to start punching people at Target every day until you get your hands on them.
All right, well, we don't actually endorse that kind of behavior. All right, Mark, let's get out of the news. All right, that is going to do it for this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. Remember, please rate, review, and follow us on Apple Podcasts. If you like the episode, you should share it on Facebook or Twitter, wherever you share stuff. It helps us out a lot when you do that. You can follow us on Twitter. I'm at Patrick_Ellers. Mark is at MKE Mitchell, and the show is at Nin Cart Society. We also have a Facebook page, which is just Nintendo Cartridge Society. Olivia Duncan Mara logo. Our theme music is provided by 8-Bit Betty. You can get more of his music by going to 8bitbetty.com or by listening right now. For my co-host, Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Ellers, sincerely saying don't punch people at Target. And thank you for listening.
Greetings, listeners of Nintendo Cartridge Society.
Are you ready for a promo?
Let's do yoga. Let's get fit.
Hi, I'm Nick.
And I'm Uriel.
And we're the hosts of Hella in Your 30s.
This is a podcast for people of all ages, all about navigating this dystopian world we live in.
That's right. So every Monday we invite you into our living room or out into the world on whatever adventures we go on.
Or into our living room for an adventure in our living room.
Yeah, like having your wife challenge you to a Great British Baking Show style competition in your own kitchen.
That's right. Or maybe, you want to know what it's like to volunteer at a food bank.
Or maybe, you want to hear what it's like to foster kittens in the midst of a pandemic.
That's right. Super easy, but giving cats medication is literally the worst thing in the world.
Okay, anyways, if you want to hang out with us, find us every Monday, Hella in Your 30s, wherever you get your podcast.
Bye.
So tomorrow's a new day. Let's order pizza.